The rainbow is here. He's in and out on a rainbow. He's the culture blaster, Michael Snyder. It's that time. He's been patiently waiting. There it is, the rainbow.
Hey, hi, it's Mr. Mo Kelly, the magnificent Kim McAllister. I know Albert's around here somewhere, and the Remarkables, and I'm glad to be with you. You know, this is so weird, guys. It's the longest I've been separated from Mark in his capacity as my on-air interlocutor since we started doing this every Friday back on KGO. And now I'm starting to think we don't need him. We don't need. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You get bonus points for interlocutor. I can't even say the word.
Thank you.
Very well done.
I was joking. Safe travels, Mark and Courtney. I hope to see Mark next week. And meanwhile, Mo, how about those quizzling Dodgers? I just want you to know that there's a spot for you in the Giants fan club if you tire of the evil empire supporting the evil empire. You know what I'm saying? I want to get this straight. My Golden State Warriors turned down every opportunity that the Mango Mussolini put forth to have them join it at the White House after their championships. You can do it. You can say no.
You can. I can't disagree with you. You know how I feel about it. That it depresses me. It saddens me. I expect more of the Dodgers, but hey, what can you do?
Same here. Let's get on to film and TV if we can. What do you say, buddy?
Let's dive in, and thank you for the Odyssey. I saw it this week very quickly. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the performances were magnificent. I don't think I need to see it again. Once was enough.
Oh yeah, I tend to agree. It's a real overwhelming experience and totally amazing to see it if you have the opportunity in 70 millimeter IMAX. But yeah, one and done. I'm not curious to see how it plays a second time. I don't expect the story's going to change if I go watch it again.
Right, you're not going to find a subtle detail or something. You saw it all.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the new movies. You know, we're going to kick off with a couple of directors whose work I have fancied in the past, that I've praised, and they have delivered a couple lesser movies this time out. Her Private Hell is the latest film by the Scandinavian director Nicholas Winding Refn. And this is the guy who did Drive, which won the Cannes Film Award for Best Director. And he's done movies that I thought were really cool, like Elle Fanning and the Neon Demon, which is kind of a weird and hallucinogenic takedown of the fashion industry. He's done a TV show that I highly recommend called Too Old to Die Young, and another one called Copenhagen Cowboy. The guy is talented. So his latest movie is called Her Private Hell. And it's this style over substance exercise. And Refn's usually sharp, and this thing becomes increasingly tedious. It's set in one of those vaguely futuristic technopolises, you know? We don't know where it is. Is it, LA Blade Runner territory? Is it in Asia? It doesn't matter. But it does focus in on a kind of a movie starlet played by Sophie Thatcher. It appears that she stars in like a cheesy Barbarella type science fiction project. And she has kind of an entourage, and she has a beautiful stepmother, and she has an absent father. And while all this is going on and she's living her glamorous life, there's a serial killer on the loose in this big city. And, maybe he's targeting her and her entourage. We don't know. Simultaneously, there's an American GI played by Charles Melton, who I first became aware of when he played Reggie on Riverdale, the Archie TV series. You know, how the fortunes have changed. He's, starring in a movie directed by this renowned international director. So he plays this American GI who is apparently trying to find his daughter in this mist-enshrouded urban nightmare. So, man, this sounds like right up my alley. And then it starts playing out, and it feels kind of leaden. There are bursts of violence against the women. A few unlucky men get caught in the crossfire. The GI is fighting the local, it looks like the Yakuza. I don't know. But in any event, you do get Havana Rose Liu, who is sort of a rising actress, as the hot stepmom, Christine Froseth as Elle's hanger-on companion, and Doug Ray Scott as dad. But it just left me a little cold. This guy is so talented, Refn, and some of his movies are so impactful and carry you along, at rocket speed. It's a little disturbing to be caught up in this thing. And I guess maybe my expectations were a little too high, but Her Private Hell is available in theaters starting today. And, if you're a fan of his work and you like kind of weird dystopian sci-fi, I guess you could watch it. And it's certainly better than another movie we'll get to in a bit that also has a weird Blade Runner-y dystopian sci-fi vibe. But on to the second disappointment by a renowned director, and that would be Sheep in the Box. This is a lesser movie by the great Japanese, I revere this guy above Refn. This guy, Hirokazu Korida, he's a Japanese filmmaker. He made a movie that literally brought me to tears and broke my heart about a parentless group of children, a family wandering throughout a big city trying to find shelter and comfort. It's called Nobody Knows, and it is actually, I would say it's in my top 20 films of all time. He also did something comparable with a movie called Shoplifters. All of his movies have been intriguing. Sheep in the Box is a science fiction film set in the not too distant future of Japan. And it's all about the loss of a child and a husband and wife who decide to take up the offer of a lifelike robotic replacement built to the specifications of their late child.
Wait a minute, wait. That sounds like AI, Steven Spielberg.
Yes, it
movie.
does. I'm getting there, Mo.
Okay.
I'm getting there. So the loss of a child is wrenching. And Korida, like I said, has done more than a few movies that address child welfare in a very tender and thoughtful way. So I can see why he thought this would be a worthy topic to address. But as much as he tries to mine the tragedy and desperation of these parents coping with the death of their son, this kind of seemed chilly and a little derivative. And the third act, not to get into great detail, but it seemed to be a knee-jerk, implausible way to wrap up the story. And yeah, we've seen this sort of thing before on TV and at the movies. Kid robots replacing a dead child, or providing comfort to a childless couple. And then there are also questions of sentience and rights for artificially intelligent beings. I mean, let's go back to Astro Boy, the classic Japanese anime, in that the scientist is trying to build a replacement son. You mentioned it, it just jumped right out at you. Steven Spielberg's sci-fi drama AI had a similar plot to Sheep in the Box, with the husband and wife being gifted with a realistic robotic boy after their own son fell ill. I mean, let's be honest, the family sitcom Small Wonder featured a little girl robot. The horror comedy Megan, with a purported best friend guardian robot built as a companion to the scientist's daughter, is something we've just seen a sequel to. This was on the lesser side of these things. Look, 3/4 of the way through, I started to hope Megan would show up and cause havoc in the middle of Sheep in the Box. And, again, this is a really talented director, and I want to support his movies. And you could watch this and not, throw up your hands in disgust, but it just didn't live up to his previous work. Let's put it that way. Sheep in the Box is in select theaters. And by the way, Sheep in the Box is a reference to, spoiler alert, The Little Prince. And there's no faulting the actors, by the way, in this thing. So, all right, now something I can unabashedly rave over.
All right.
Hadestown, the musical. Won 8 Tony Awards in 2019, and it was captured last year live at a performance on London's West End with the 5 original principal cast members from the Broadway opening, from the premiere, and that would be Reeve Carney, Andre DeShields, Amber Gray, Eva Noblezada and Patrick Page. And oh my God, they're so wonderful. And maybe this was just perfectly designed for me. I've always loved the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. You know the
Mhm.
basic story of that, Mo? You're probably aware. Orpheus is a musician, plays the lyre, in what have you, and his lady love dies, and he decides that he will do anything and everything, including go down to Hades, go to hell, and bring her back to life. And that is essentially the nut here. But Hades Town, the musical, tells the Orpheus and Eurydice story via a fusion of roadhouse jazz and chamber folk music that is so beautiful and memorable. And the performances are just exquisite. Everybody is just absolutely wonderful. I'd never seen, well, I've seen Reeve Carney before. He plays Orpheus, and a young actress named Eva Noblezada, who I mentioned earlier, plays Eurydice. Patrick Page, what a phenomenal performance as Hades, ruler of what appears to be kind of a southern town. And it is, in fact, obviously a stand-in for hell itself. And Andre DeShields, the veteran theater and film actor, is Hermes, kind of the narrator. You know how,
Mhm.
I guess, Thornton Wilder's Our Town had a narration by a kind of sage fellow who basically is sort of omniscient regarding what's going on. Well, that's Andre DeShields' character of Hermes here in
Mhm.
Hades Town, the musical. You know, it was thrilling and it was moving and the music was resonant and I liked it better than Hamilton as far as modern musicals go. And again, maybe it's because I have a
High
really good
praise.
high praise. I'll say it, high praise indeed. The idea of trying to bring Eurydice back and convincing King Hades and his wife Persephone, who, by the way, she is played by Amber Gray in like a show-stopping performance that brings to mind all the great soul jazz belters of yore. There's a real Ma Rainey's Black Bottom vibe. Again, it looks like kind of a
Mhm.
southern town. There's a train that you have to take to hell. I was just blown away by Hades Town, the musical. It is in theaters, and I think it's only 5 days starting today, I believe. But even if you miss it on the big screen, if you get a chance to watch this when it is available for streaming, I recommend it. Absolutely. Hades Town.
Quick
How's that?
question. Do you think it's in theaters only 5 days to satisfy Golden Globe and Oscar requirements?
I'm not really sure, but I just think that it's fantastic. And you know, it's a little distracting to see those tiny microphones on close-ups and whatever, but
Yeah,
we
yeah.
did this with the Hamilton movie based on the stage play. We did this with a pretty terrific Stephen Sondheim musical that was revived called Merrily We Roll Along, the one with Jonathan Groff and
Mhm.
Daniel Radcliffe. That was a great movie experience for me, but this actually topped them all. This was just absolutely great. Anais Mitchell, who wrote this thing, all praise to the cast, the crew, and the creators of Hades Town. I can't believe I wasn't familiar with it prior, but I'm not much of a Broadway show goer, you know?
Mhm.
Okay, let's get to the low end. And it's funny how you find things that are more fun than more highly touted films when you kind of scrub around in the lesser reaches. And that's the case for me with Motor City. Do you watch Reacher, the action TV show with Alan Richson? Have you watched that at all?
Come on, man. Of course I do. I've watched
It,
that. I've seen the movies and the TV show.
I love Alan Ritchson as Reacher. He's like a big hulking guy, but obviously with a fierce intellect. It's a wonderful show. It's based on a series of novels. I first saw Alan Ritchson playing Hawk of the DC duo of
Titans.
superheroes Hawk and Dove on a show
Titans.
called Titans.
Yep.
And I was like, well, this guy's pretty good for a lunk. Well, it turns out he's much more than that. He's wonderful in Reacher. And Motor City is a pulpy 70s crime revenge thriller that proudly flaunts its B-movie vibes. And not only does it star Richardson as the central figure, a blue-collar factory worker, Vietnam vet, a former Ranger, and an ex-con in late 70s Detroit, a.k.a. the Motor City. it also features the massively talented Ben Foster, who plays a greasy, abusive drug kingpin. I mean, he's wonderful in this. And Shailene Woodley, I've never seen her like this in a movie or TV show. She is a former party girl turned waitress, and she is wearing like gold lame when you first encounter her, and you can't believe what you're seeing. And she ends up being the factory worker and former vet's sweetheart. And he's going to propose to her when he is set up by a corrupt cop to get revenge for having taken her away from Foster's kingpin character. There is virtually no clearly audible dialogue throughout Motor City. There's a little shouting drowned out by copious period needle drops. And at one point, on screen, Jack White, a son of Detroit and one of the film's producers, playing a Christmas Carol in an upscale restaurant. But other than that, until I guess I don't want to spoil it at all, but it's largely dialogue free. And as ambitious as it was violent, predictable schlock in some ways. But man, I totally enjoyed watching it. Ben McKenzie and Pablo Schreiber and Lionel Boyce have supporting roles. It's directed by someone with the name Patsy Pansaroli. And I was like, oh, this is the director of the gritty Western Old Henry with Tim Blake Nelson, which I really, really liked. But what a name. And, again, this is sort of a popcorn movie for me. This is a guilty pleasure for me, but I thought for what it was well done. It's called Motor City, and it is in theaters. How about that?
Potsy like from Happy Days?
No, different Potsy. Oh my God, okay. Kim. That's
Anson Williams.
That's what you interrupt us for? I was thinking you were going to make plans to see Hadestown the musical and wouldn't bother commenting on anything.
No, I'm stuck on Potsy.
I thought the same thing. So don't beat yourself up too much. I thought Anson Williams immediately.
Oh, man. Unbelievable. All right. One more movie quickly. Kill Code is an incoherent. This is, the weird low end movie where I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. It's an incoherent dystopian pastiche. Remember I mentioned Blade Runner and it might apply to another movie. Criminals in the ugly near future are issued, well, not that near, they're issued watches with nanoviruses that will kill them in a set amount of time unless they kill their criminal targets. Thereupon, they will be given the antidote. But this plan in this movie, Kill Code, is eventually to force everyone in each of the 4 quadrants of America to be issued a watch and presumably kill one another, cleansing the world and starting over. My God, Kill Code features some name actors doing very little or just cashing a paycheck, starting with Harvey Keitel, who plays the tech despot behind the killer watches with the psychopath code encoded. Frank Grillo plays a comrade and frenemy to the despot with just a few lines. Tyrese Gibson gives what must be his most wooden performance ever, and that is saying something. And I guess we're supposed to, kind of identify with and like the sort of tough gal star, Franzi Schlisser. She's, I guess, our hero in this thing. She's someone who worked for this evil corporation and now is raging against the machine. A paycheck, everyone. Lots of amateurish performances other than our 3 main well-known guys. It's a dim-witted kind of adult script. There's stilted, bogus dialogue. It's set in, are you ready? New Texas. And to tell you how derivative it is and how it's attempting to connect itself to the larger science fiction pantheon, at one moment during the climactic battle across this underclass ghetto, we see a Statue of Liberty head in the middle of it, like laying on the ground.
Oh, my gosh. It sounds like this is like an updated retread of Escape from New York, where in that movie, Snake Plissken was given like a charge that was going to go off in his head unless he, saved the president, where they have to, they're using a criminal to do criminal stuff.
Right. But it's just absurd. There are some nice CGI effects. There are, like I said, some Blade Runner moments of the CGI kind. Some of the vistas are clearly computer generated and seem to be done so in a fairly accomplished way. And there are telekinetic bullets that tear people apart in interesting ways via computer animation. But everything else looks like a C movie backlot backyard. And for whatever money was spent, the result was still clumsy. It's only available on demand. Kill code, yikes.
It sounds like it was like one of those vanity projects where someone had a whole lot of money and they just wanted to make a movie and they could just bankroll it themselves.
Right, and hire Harvey Keitel and Frank Grillo. The filmmaker, I will not mention his name, but kudos to him for getting a movie made like this. And apparently it was shot largely in Biloxi, Mississippi. I think the filmmaker is from the South. All right, I'm going to out him. Justin Price, he was the director and screenwriter. And again, good on you, Justin, for getting this film made, but it just did not work. It strikes me, would it be midnight movie potential? Maybe, I don't know. It's pretty ridiculous. Anyway. That's the big screen for you, Mo.
Well, we had a wide variety of choices today. I will say that you started with Her Private Hell, which was a weird dystopian sci-fi vibe. We kind of set the tone for a lot of your offerings today. And you thought it suffered from style over substance. It became tedious. It focused on a movie starlet and her career and how a serial killer may have been targeting her and her entourage. Good premise, but less than desirable execution, if I got it right.
Yeah.
Sheep in a Box, Japanese film set in the future about parents who bring in a robotic duplicate of their deceased son. If it sounds familiar, yes, it does, because it's derivative and reminiscent of other similar movies we also discussed, like AI and others. And but I'm still kind of intrigued. I gotta say, I'm intrigued, Michael, because I like sci-fi like that. So,
well, if you're okay with reading subtitles, I like supporting Corrida. When I tell you that, Nobody Knows just broke my heart. It's just such a wonderful film. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest you seek that and Shoplifters out. That's Corrida at his best.
Hadestown, the musical. It tells the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. The music, you said, was wonderful. Performances are wonderful. You liked it better than Hamilton. You were so effusive and over the moon for this. I love me a good musical. You said it was better than Hamilton. So you know what? I'm going to have to see it just because that's high praise. I don't know if we can live up to it, but you're going to get at least 2 hours out of me.
Well, I just thought the use of Fats Waller type juke joint jazz and again almost Joni Mitchell type melody construction on the more folk chamber folk pieces, whatever it was, it all hung together, and the performances are just mind-blowingly good.
Motor City. My mother is from, yes, she's still with us. She's from Detroit, so I'm very close to the city of Detroit. It's rich history. It's rich music history, automotive history. So a movie about the Motor City, especially set in the past, a pulpy B-movie-esque, set in the late 1970s. Alan Ritchson, I love as an actor. I love what he did in Titans. That's where I first recognized him and found him, as you did. And of course, I love the Reacher series. So I'm in just because he is starring in it, regardless of whether it's good or bad. You say it's a B movie, might even be a C movie, but that's okay. And also the supporting cast I like as well. Ben Foster, Shailene Woodley. Look, it doesn't have to be great. I think it's worth my time.
And it's a cool experiment, virtually no dialogue, and it works. And I do also want to point out, this is not for Mark or Kim. There are moments of serious violence and gore where Mark would probably, run from the room. And I mean that in the nicest way.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of violence and killing, we got to end with Kill Code, which is, according to you, an incoherent dystopian pastiche. Criminals are issued watches with nanoviruses and will die unless they kill other predetermined targets. It's not a bad premise, but probably has very poor execution. And if I were to just read the cast, you would think, wow, it's worth my time. Frank Grillo, love just about everything he's in. Tyrese Gibson, hit or miss, but he's still a name. And the inimitable Harvey Keitel, question mark, you would think, but I guess wrong.
You do know, a friend of mine and I have a thing we call the Michael Caine syndrome. You do one big budget stinker to make 3 Oscar-winning indies or lower budget movies, and maybe that's Harvey, or maybe he just doesn't care at this point. Hey, I like being in the movies. Hey,
yeah. Look, it is a paycheck, and and he is still working, and it doesn't have to. Not everything. Maybe he thought it could have been like the next Pulp Fiction, because because you never know what something's going to turn into.
Unless you read the script and go, geez Louise, what's going on here?
If the thing about the script to Pulp Fiction, if you were just reading that, I'm not so sure everyone would have been able to have seen and digested Quentin Tarantino's vision just off the script of Pulp Fiction, because it's all over the place.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's see. You know what? We're kind of running out of time. I do want to mention at least one thing that I've been watching and loving, and we'll get to more detail about a couple other shows that I've been enamored of next week. But, I always thought King of the Hill was entertaining when it was on Fox. It's about a propane salesman and his family. He's very conservative. He lives in the town of Arlen, Texas. He has sort of a precocious kind of goofball son. They went off the air after a very successful run, and they came back a decade later, and everybody was aged up. And they've done just a wonderful job of revisiting these characters and their lives, as the Hill family has been away in Saudi Arabia, where Dad was working for Aramco. And then he comes back to his old home and his old neighborhood and his old buddies, and finds that America has changed considerably. And what's fantastic about this is how they've developed the characters, and there's been personal growth. And young Bobby, the kid, has grown up to be a pretty successful restaurateur, restaurant co-owner and chef. And I just love what they did. And I loved how they developed it further. And kudos to Mike Judge, who came up with the show and does the voice of patriarch Hank Hill. And Pamela Adlon has been the voice of Bobby Hill, the kid, forever, this grown woman. Mm-hmm. And she is back in the role of Bobby, and the whole thing is seamless. I just really have enjoyed the revival of King of the Hill on Hulu.
That is interesting, because I wasn't a big King of the Hill fan, but when you put it like that, where they've aged up the characters and they brought them into the world now after being away, that's an intriguing concept. Because you watch something like The Simpsons or Futurama, they're stuck in their time and they never get beyond that time. Bart Simpson will be, 8 years old forever.
Forever and ever and ever. Very true. I also want to point out, I'm one of the biggest Stephen Root fans out there, the great character actor, and he is back as the voice of Bill Dauterive, the hapless neighbor across the street from the Hill family. Anything with Stephen Root is worth checking out, and this is one of those things. Anyway, King of the Hill, for those of you who enjoy an animated comedy, this is a good one.
Oh, not only is it a good one, that was a great culture blast, Michael Snyder. Not only did you give us some great choices to spend our time with, you gave us some great insight as far as why we should or shouldn't. And even though some of those you may not have liked, I think I'm going to check out some of them, if only because the premise is so intriguing. So thank you for all that you do, Michael Snyder. Culture Blast.
Hey, I'm happy to do it. I do want to point out that my latest column in The Voice of San Francisco at thevoicesf.org concerns The Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day as the salvation of this year's summer movie season, which has been plagued by big budget flops, other than, I guess, Toy Story 5 and the low budget success of Obsession and Backrooms. Tomorrow night at the Formosa in LA, the Constellation Club is back. Next Wednesday, I'm going to check out the EDM groove of more ephemeral with Fockix and my talented super glam friend, singer and icon Jackie Body at the uber cool Moroccan Lounge. The party never stops, Mo.
Look, you're better than me. I can't do anything all night anymore. Nothing. I can't party all night. I can't sleep all night uninterrupted. Nothing. You're a better man than me.
You got to be fresh to deliver all these insights, Mr.
Woo.
Mo Kelly.
No, I'm being serious because you spend a lot of time. God bless you, Michael Snyder.
Thanks, man.
And there he goes, out on the rainbow.